Before we dive into the specifics, you need to understand something critical about why clown killers exist at all. In 1970s America, clowns were everywhere. Birthday parties, community events, parades. Being a clown was seen as wholesome, trustworthy, almost sacred. Parents would leave their kids alone with clowns without a second thought. That's not an exaggeration. That was the culture. And certain people noticed this. They recognized that a clown costume wasn't just entertainment. It was camouflage. It was access. It was the perfect predator's disguise. Let me take you back to March 1978. Des Plaines, Illinois. John Wayne Gacy had been performing as Pogo the Clown for years at that point. Charitable events, fundraisers for the Democratic Party. He'd pose for photos, sign autographs, the whole routine. People described him as generous, civic-minded, a pillar of the community. But behind that painted smile, Gacy was orchestrating something incomprehensible. Between 1972 and 1978, he lured at least 33 young men and boys to his home. His method was calculated and cold. He'd offer them construction jobs since he ran a contracting business. He'd promise money, opportunity, a future. Some he picked up from the bus station. Others were employees. One was the son of a fellow businessman. Once inside his house, Gacy would handcuff them under the pretense of showing them a magic trick. "I'm going to show you a trick," he'd say, smiling. And then the horror would begin. He'd torture them for hours, sometimes days. He called it his rope trick, a grotesque term for strangulation that allowed him to revive and re-torture his victims multiple times. When he was finally done, he'd stuff their bodies into the crawl space beneath his house or dump them in the Des Plaines River. And the next weekend, he'd put on his Pogo costume and entertain children at a neighborhood block party. Think about that dichotomy. That's not just evil. That's calculated compartmentalization that most human minds cannot comprehend. For 6 years, Gacy operated in plain sight. But his downfall started with one case that wouldn't go away. December 11, 1978, 15-year-old Robert Pius told his mother he was going to talk to a contractor about a summer job. That contractor was John Wayne Gacy. Robert never came home. Now, dozens of young men had gone missing in the Chicago area during the 1970s. But Robert's mother, Elizabeth, wouldn't let this case fade. She pushed investigators relentlessly, and this time, they started connecting dots that had been there all along. They discovered Gacy had been convicted of sodomy in Iowa in 1968. He'd served 18 months. After his release, he moved to Chicago, remarried, started his business, and rebuilt his reputation. On paper, he was rehabilitated. In reality, he'd just found new hunting grounds. When police searched Gacy's home on December 21, 1978, they initially found nothing conclusive, but they noticed a strange, persistent smell. Gacy claimed it was moisture and mold from the crawl space. Investigators weren't convinced. They obtained a second search warrant, and on December 22, they went beneath the house. The first body was discovered within minutes, then another, and another. The investigators had to stop counting and call for backup. The crawl space was essentially a graveyard. Bodies in various states of decomposition, some buried in lime, some wrapped in cloth. All positioned in a manner that suggested Gacy had run out of space and started stacking them. When they excavated the Des Plaines River, they found 4 more bodies Gacy had dumped when his crawl space became too full. 33 confirmed victims. Most were teenagers. The youngest was 14 years old. You'd think Gacy's case would be an isolated horror, but it wasn't. It opened a door. It created a template, and others walked through it. In October 2014, exactly what everyone feared finally happened again. But this time, the killer clown wasn't American. She was Brazilian. Her name was Christiane Silva, and her story reveals something even more disturbing than Gacy's calculated evil: crimes of passion committed behind clown makeup. Silva worked as a children's party entertainer in Sao Paulo, performing under the name Palhaca Tiririco, which translates roughly to grumpy clown. Ironic, considering what happened next. Silva discovered her husband was having an affair with a woman named Juliana Goncalves. Rather than confronting her directly, Silva planned something theatrical. She put on her full clown costume, bright red wig, white face paint, the whole ensemble, and went to Goncalves' workplace. Security footage shows Silva entering the building in full costume, carrying what appeared to be a gift bag. Employees later said they thought she was there for a surprise party or promotion. Instead, Silva walked directly to Goncalves, pulled a gun from the bag, and shot her multiple times at point-blank range in front of horrified coworkers. Then Silva calmly walked out, still in costume, got in her car, and drove away. The psychology here is fascinating and deeply disturbing. Silva didn't just commit murder. She transformed it into a performance. She weaponized the one profession designed to disarm people, to make them feel safe and happy, and turned it into a vehicle for violence. She was arrested 3 weeks later. During interrogation, she showed no remorse. In fact, she seemed proud. She'd sent a message. She'd made her husband's mistress's final moments surreal and terrifying. The clown costume wasn't a disguise. It was a statement. These cases might seem like historical anomalies, but the phenomenon of killer clowns has evolved into something new and arguably more widespread in recent years. Remember the 2016 clown sightings? It started in August in South Carolina. Reports emerged of people dressed as clowns lurking in woods, standing under streetlights, trying to lure children. At first, people thought it was a hoax or viral marketing. But then it spread. Wisconsin, New Jersey, Florida, California. Within weeks, clown sightings were reported in dozens of states. Some were harmless pranks, others were decidedly not. In September 2016, a woman in Reading, Pennsylvania, was stabbed by someone in a clown mask. In Columbus, Ohio, a man dressed as a clown chased a woman through a parking garage with a knife. Multiple schools went into lockdown after clown-related threats. Law enforcement agencies across the country issued warnings. Professional clown organizations held press conferences distancing themselves from the phenomenon. Major retailers pulled clown costumes from shelves. And here's what made it truly unprecedented: social media amplified everything. Every sighting, real or fabricated, spread instantly. Fear became viral. Copycats emerged by the hundreds. What might have been isolated incidents in previous decades became a national hysteria. But within that hysteria were real predators, people who understood that societal fear of clowns could be weaponized, people who used the panic as cover for genuine criminal intent. In August 2016, a registered sex offender named Jesse Johnson was arrested in Flint Township, Michigan, after approaching children while dressed as a clown. He'd been using the costume to get close to victims. The nationwide clown panic gave him camouflage among hundreds of hoaxes. So why do killers choose clown personas? What makes this specific disguise so appealing to predators? Criminal psychologists point to several factors. First, there's the uncanny valley effect. Clowns are human, but they're also not quite human. The exaggerated features, the frozen smile, the natural movements. Our brains recognize something is off, which creates instinctive discomfort. Second, there's the power dynamic inversion. Clowns are supposed to be harmless, silly, beneath us on the social hierarchy. When that dynamic flips and the clown becomes the threat, it creates cognitive dissonance that paralyzes normal threat responses. Third, and perhaps most importantly, there's access and trust. Clowns are one of the few strangers we allow close to children without question. They're invited into intimate spaces like homes and schools. They're trusted implicitly. For a predator, that's not just useful, it's invaluable. Dr. Rami Nader, a Canadian psychologist who specializes in anxiety disorders, explained it this way in a 2016 interview. The fear of clowns is rooted in the idea that they're hiding something behind he makeup. And when that intuition proves correct, when the clown actually is hiding something sinister, it validates our deepest fears about trust and deception. And that's the lesson these cases teach us. The most dangerous predators aren't the ones who look dangerous. They're the ones who've mastered looking safe. So the next time you see a clown at a party or a parade, remember, the makeup isn't the problem. The problem is we've been taught to ignore our instincts when something feels wrong just because it looks Friendly. Trust your gut, question appearances, and understand that evil doesn't always announce itself with darkness. Sometimes it announces itself with a smile. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe to the channel. Each week, we dive deep into psychology, true crime, and uncomfortable truths about human nature. Leave a comment with your thoughts on these cases, and stay curious, stay skeptical, and stay safe. See you in the next video.